Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Paige, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 5. So in episode 3 of this season, otherwise entitled The Death of Vibe, we start off the episode with a scene that I don't think many, if any of us, were expecting to see in the episode, but something that we were definitely wanting and expecting to see at some point in the season due to Nora's name drop of it in the first episode of the season. And that is, of course, the Flash Museum. So we jump to 14 years in the future, that being 2032, 8 years after Barry would have disappeared following the Crisis event. And we see that Star Labs has become the Flash Museum, with the area we see currently in present day on the show, known as the Speed Lab, turned into the Hall of Villains, which is where we see a young Nora approach a display on Cicada in a very dramatic way in order to show us how scared she was of him in her younger days. And I guess she is still scared of him nowadays. But as she moves through this Hall of Villains, we can see displays for heaps of Flash villains throughout the history of the character. So I thought, why not point all of them out? I thought that would be a pretty cool and interesting idea and video to make, because I don't think everyone's like 100% sure on what each display means and what character it's associated to. But of course, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below which one you were most excited to see, and also if I get any wrong, I'm pretty sure I've got all of them right, but you know, I might get one or two wrong, but let me know in the comments section down below if you think I'm wrong. But of course, be sure to drop a like and video to show support if you enjoy it and like all these little eye-catching moments. Be sure to drop a like on it, it's very much appreciated. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. But we will just go through the museum as like Nora went through it. So when we first enter, of course it makes sense that we are encountered with the biggest of the bads in regards to the Flash, that of course being the Reverse Flash. An important thing to remember, as some people were wondering why they weren't included with the villains' names, and that's the real names of the villains that aren't recorded. They are like redacted from the records of the Flash Museum, so it doesn't say like Eobard Thawne with Reverse Flash or anything like that. So this was mentioned back in episode 1, like Nora, said it. So obviously some people just missed that part of the episode, I'm guessing. The only major thing of note with the Reverse Flash display is that the suit does have like the tachyon device attached to it. So I'm guessing that device is like included in the biography of Reverse Flash, as to possibly note exactly what went down with him. I do wonder if they would include that he posed as Harrison Wells, but then again, that could be seen as possibly giving away his identity. But then he also did kill the OG Harrison Wells, so maybe they'd want to, explain that. I don't know, it's just a bit confusing in regards to all of that because he was two different people, but I don't know. But then we move over to this huge display of gear and gadgets from various villains throughout the Flash's history. So starting from the top and from right to left, we have the water pistol that actually shot acid, which is of course used by the Axel Walker Trickster. And this was seen first, I think last season, that was the first time he used that pistol when he like severely injured Ralph with the acid. And it was at that point that Ralph found out that he could actually like get injured, because he was like absorbing bullets and stuff, and then all of a sudden he's like, my skin's extremely, damaged because of this acid. Now next to that, I'm 99% sure are the sonic gloves used by Pied Piper. Yeah, that's a name we haven't heard in a while. But I'm pretty sure these are the gloves he used, and before anyone asks, like, why aren't they glowing green? It's because they're not on and not functioning, like, duh. Next to that, we have the most random piece of history, in my opinion, and that is just due to the fact that this is the Hall of Villains. But we have the iron mask that Jay Garrick was forced to wear whilst Zoom had him captive. Now, as I said, it's random because it's the Hall of Villains. So you would think it would just have stuff that like villains used or wore. If anything, this piece would be placed in like a sections for like allies of the Flash or something like that. But I'm obviously looking too deep into this, as I usually do. But yeah, I just thought it was a tad random that it'd have something associated with a hero in the Hall of Villains. But I don't know. Now, next to that iron mask, we actually have the mask of Goldfinger, who is, of course, the character of General Eiling when he was, like, masked up when he was, like, under the mind control of Gorilla Grodd. At first, I was thinking, like, wow, that is pretty random. It's probably the most random thing to have been included here. Like, maybe even more random than the iron mask that Jay Garrick wore, but I guess the most random in regards to, like, a villain-associated thing. But then I thought, well, it would be hard to include anything prop-wise connected directly to Gorilla Grodd, like a crown or a tooth or something like that. It'd be pretty hard. So this is probably one way, or the best way, that the museum is easily able to reference Grodd and his activities in the past. So this will be like, oh, this is like when Grodd first rose, he like took control of General Eiling or something like that, and this is the mask that he wore. Well, they wouldn't say General Eiling, I guess they'd say some dude, and they called him Goldfinger because they got to keep the name secret. But this is probably the way that they do reference Grodd, because there is nothing else here Grodwise in this Hall of Villains, which is a bit strange. Now, next to the mask of Goldfinger, I believe are the Gauntlets of Geomancer, who was of course the villain that we saw terrorize Central City on Earth 1 when Barry and some of the others were over on Earth 2. So if you remember, we saw the fake Jay Garrick take him on, as well as Caitlin and Iris getting involved in some conflict with him in Star Labs. I think it was them two that actually took him down from memory. So I remember back then when like Caitlin and Iris actually like shared scenes together. Yeah. Anyway, I'm pretty sure these are his. They are pretty basic. They're not detailed like Pied Piper's Sonic Gloves, but I cannot think of any other villain who we have had on the show in the past that has had like gauntlets like this. Geomancer is the best fit. I did see some people saying that they could have been Cisco's robotic hands, but that future doesn't exist anymore, so it wouldn't make sense for them to be in this Flash museum. So that's why I'm 99% sure that this is the Gauntlets of Geomancer. Next to that, we obviously have the Cold Gun belonging to that of Captain Cold. Not really much to jump into in regards to this. However, I do like how they don't have Heatwave's gun here. Like, they easily could have put it here if they wanted to, but I'm guessing it's not there mainly due to his time travel activities. Now, you could make an argument that Captain Cold ended up not really being a villain, but I guess they are basing a lot of this off the public's opinion, so a lot of people would have seen Captain Cold as a villain. Like, they wouldn't have seen, the behind the scenes stuff that sort of like changed Barry's opinions on him. And really, Barry's like opinions changed on Captain Cold and Leonard Snart following his death in Legends. So, based on the public opinion, he's still a villain, so you can understand why he would still be included in this Hall of Villains display. Next to the Cold Gun, this was a pretty hard one to pick, but I think that is Savitar's suit. I might be wrong, but I think that is what it is. Now, I know people are most likely already typing this in the comments because I've seen comments like this since the episode aired, even when the episode was still airing, and that comment would be, how do they have Savitar's suit? Barry destroyed it. And yes, that is true, he did. But have you heard of Tarzan's grip? That would definitely hold it back together. But seriously, this is a museum, so this suit, along with some of the other things in this Hall of Villains, as well as the whole museum, I'm guessing, would just be like recreations. Just like other museums, displays are just recreations. Like, they don't have real, like, taxidermized, is that the correct term? Taxidermized, anyway, cavemen and, like, saber-toothed tigers and stuff. They're recreations and stuffed. They're not real. So that would be the case with some, not all, but some of the stuff here. Like if it was destroyed, or if it was, from a different time, or maybe the villain kept their outfit and stuff like that. Up next is the Boomerang from who else but Captain Boomerang. And this is, of course, from the first crossover event between The Flash in Season 1 and Arrow in their Season 3. But this isn't just a normal Boomerang, this is the one that had to be put back together by the team. I think it was the one that exploded, I'm pretty sure, and they had to put it back together. But instead of the team sitting there and having a nice bonding session while putting this puzzle back together, Barry put it back together in, well, a flash. Now, due to the obscurity of this item, because it's like blown up and put back together, I would like to think it is a real artifact for the museum. So let's go along with that thought and say this is indeed a real item. Like I'll mention later in this video, this is Star Labs. It's been turned into the Flash Museum, so maybe Star Labs had the Boomerang, maybe. Now, next to that is an item that the episode actually properly focused on, like they zoomed in on it as if like Nora was, amazed by it. And that is, of course, the Weather Wand created by Cisco. But of course, used by Weather Wizard. Now, we haven't seen Weather Wizard for a while on the show, let alone like the rest of the villains in this Hall of Villains. But we are supposed to be getting like a new sort of rogues team up showing up later this season. So we could get like another weather focused villain, maybe even the Liam McIntyre Weather Wizard. He could come back and they might get their hands on this little gizmo. We'll have to wait and see. Next to the Weather Wand are the Katanas of the Samuroid, which we of course saw last season at a few different points, and they were like, well, just like a battle robot, I guess, of Clifford DeVoe, aka the Thinker. But yeah, not much really interesting there. It's just some katanas. Now, on the opposite side of those few pieces of gears and gadgets in the Hall of Villains, we have 4 different suits belonging to, well, 4 different villains. So starting from left to right, we have Dr. Light, who is, of course, the Earth 2 Linda Park. And yes, we are still wondering, is she still running around Earth 1 Central City in the nude? Who knows? Will we ever find out? Once again, who knows? Next to that, we have the Axel Walker Trickster outfit, which goes well with the acid water pistol. Next to that, we have the Zoom suit, and similar to the Savitar suit, this would have to be a recreation due to the fact that Zoom was, of course, taken away by time wraiths in the suit and went on to become the messed up, scarred up, and just all-round creepy looking Black Flash. And then finally, we have Amunet Black's outfit. And the last thing of note in regards to the history of the Flash that we know of so far is of course the display dedicated to the Thinker. So we can see that they do have his chair there, the floating chair, and you would think this is real, and that comes down to the fact that this chair did end up in Star Labs at the end of last season with like Marley's tearing out that component from the back of it. So one would think that it would just have, been moved into like Star Labs storage after that or something, or a spare room. And seeing that Star Labs, like I said earlier, became the Flash Museum, it does seem logical they would just move it up from storage and go like, hey, this looks good here. And I guess the last real thing to go over from the Hall of Villains is the Sakata display, even though it's basic as hell. Like, they do have like a Cicada light up sign as well. But it is great that the only thing on Cicada is that newspaper article saying, who is Cicada? Because as Nora goes on to say, he was mysterious and was never taken down. So it is awesome, like, oh, they have all these mementos of all these villains that they've beaten, but then there's just this lone newspaper article with like a sound effect, and it just basically shows that he was never captured, but there's still some record on him. Now, one thing I do need to point out quickly about this is that if you watch my video about maybe 2 months ago, it was about some like 100th episode possible spoilers and information. Now, one of the things that they said was that the Zoom suit was in Vancouver, and that would have been around the time they were actually filming this episode. So what it seems like is that was true. However, the Zoom suit wasn't in Vancouver for the 100th episode. It might be there for the 100th episode, but it was in Vancouver at that point in time for this episode. So that's why the Zoom suit was in there. So another couple of things from that are those little like plot details, or those like leaked plot details have come true already. So it'll be interesting to see how many more come true from that. But yeah, as soon as I saw the Zoom suit in this scene, I was like, oh, okay, that's why I was in Vancouver at that point in time. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on the video to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below. Did I get everything right? Do you think I got something wrong? Let me know. And also, do you want to see more Flash Museum in this season at some point? Do you want to see like a Hall of Heroes or Hall of Allies and see different like future versions or stuff from various heroes that Barry or the Flash has worked with in his past? Would you like to see some of that? Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.